All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Ashley Gravatte. I'm the Director of Arts and Wellness for the Alzheimer's and Dementia Resource Center, as well as a Positive Approach to Care certified trainer. The information in this workshop will be evidence-based, science-based information, and all of our teaching is based in the Positive Approach to Care technique. So with that, I will get started. I will share a little bit about us at ADRC. We're the Alzheimer's and Dementia Resource Center. We provide services to care partners and the person that they're caring for. And we do this through providing links and connections to resources, support groups. We have a variety of support groups. Some are virtual, some are in person. So if you'd like more information about support groups, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll get that list to you. We also provide skill building and educational workshops such as this one. And today we're talking about prevention, starting the new year, really thinking about our health and how we can delay dementia as we age. I'm just letting people in here as they pop up. We also provide one-on-one care coaching. So this is an opportunity for you to meet individually with someone on our team to kind of build a roadmap for information, things that are specific to you, any challenges that may be coming up, social services that you may benefit for. We can help get you started with that and point you in the right direction. We also manage the State of Florida Brain Bank. This is a post-mortem research study to help find a cure. And so if you'd like more information about that, please also reach out to me. We also have a podcast called Informed Aging. Not necessarily dementia-related topics, but all things aging, and you can tune into that on our website. So what is dementia? Dementia is an umbrella term. It's not a diagnosis in itself, and it's defined as having two or more parts of the brain that are damaged, and there's no cure for different forms of dementia. And there's 4 primary forms that we'll talk about in a minute, and we strongly advocate for getting an accurate diagnosis. And sometimes memory issues and a lot of the symptoms that come up with different forms of dementia can be something that's treatable. And so the 4 main types of dementia are Alzheimer's disease, as I'm sure you're all aware of. This makes up about 50 to 70% of diagnoses. And there's Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. And each dementia has different characteristics. They're caused by different things. So vascular dementia, we often see that after a stroke due to a blockage in the arteries of the brain. They have risk factors similar to the others: diabetes, cardiovascular disease. Lewy body presents a little differently as well. It sometimes goes hand in hand with Parkinson's disease, and they're very similar. And sometimes you can have them both at the same time. And then frontotemporal dementia, that affects that front part of the brain, our executive functioning, personality traits, a lot of the things that we developed later in life as we aged and left adolescence into adulthood. All of those skills tend to go first with frontotemporal dementia. And so we see changes in personality, language, filters, and things like that. So each one can be a little different, and it can be really helpful to know how best to care for our person who's living with some form of dementia. And lastly, another reason for diagnosis is because it could be treatable. It could be a vitamin deficiency, medication changes. It could be something called normal pressure hydrocephalus, which again is treatable and looks very similar to some form of dementia. And that's just a fluid buildup in the brain, and that can be treated. So why should we be concerned about getting dementia? Alzheimer's disease is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. And every 3 seconds, someone is diagnosed with some form of dementia. Here in Florida, in the last 5 years, we've seen a 24% increase in those diagnoses. And about 6.5 million people over the age of 65 as of 2022 have been diagnosed with some form of dementia. There's a 50% increase over the age of 85. And here in Florida, we have 720,000 Floridians as of 2025 being diagnosed. The life expectancy is anywhere between 3 and 11 years once you have a diagnosis, but that but that diagnosis may have started decades before. So today we're going to learn skills and strategies on lifestyle changes, because some of it is lifestyle, on how we can delay that. And then of course it's expensive. It costs our country $321 billion a year for the care for this disease. We know that there's no cure, so all we can do is provide care, and it can be financially burdensome to the families. So some of the risk factors. Risk factors include age. The developing dementia is not a normal part of aging. It's not something that's guaranteed, but age does play a huge factor in that. Women make up 2/3 of those diagnoses, especially for Alzheimer's disease. And some research out of Harvard Medical University attributes this to women having stronger immune systems, which will create more of that amyloid plaque in the brain, and also they live longer. If you are of Hispanic or African American heritage, that is also an increased risk factor. There is a genetic component, which having the APOE4 genetic gene. But that, I think, recently I saw that it's around 1% of diagnoses are genetically related, and the rest is lifestyle. So it is a component, but it's not a strong component. Stress, sleep, nutrition, and certain medical conditions are all important risk factors for whether we will develop Alzheimer's disease later in life. Having fewer years of education has also been associated with having a higher risk of dementia. So what are some things to look for? Poor or decreased judgment. So is your person, or are you making poor decisions, maybe giving money to a person that you don't know, or a stranger that just asked for money on the phone? They called up and asked you to donate to some organization that you've never been a part of before, or you're leaving the stove on. The decisions that you're making aren't making sense for the person that you know. Having frequent memory loss that affects your daily activities, problems with abstract thinking, problems with language, and so not knowing what a word means anymore, or just not being able to find that word. Some of that's normal, but some of it is not. Loss of initiative. So they're no longer wanting to do the things that they've always done. They're no longer taking their daily showers. They're no longer gardening, if that's something they've always wanted to do, or they're not cooking for themselves anymore. Misplacing things and putting them in inappropriate places. So the keys, for example, we're finding those in the refrigerator or in the bathroom cabinet. Difficulty performing familiar tasks. So picking up a toothbrush and not knowing what it's used for. Getting in the car and not knowing where to put the key in the ignition. Changes in personality. We may see a sharpness or using profanities when that person hadn't used them before. Disoriented to time and space, so not knowing what time of day it is, or being able to arrive to places on time, or not knowing where they are, or recognizing where the bathroom is and they've lived there for 30 years. And changes in mood and other behaviors. These are all not normal parts of aging and memory loss. So what are some of the contributing factors? There are 4 main physiological risk factors. That's inflammation, oxidation, glucose dysregulation, and lipid dysregulation. So with inflammation, that's chronic inflammation in the brain, also known as neuroinflammation, and it plays a significant role in the development and progression of dementia. While inflammation is natural in our body's immune response, over time, an increased or prolonged amount of inflammation can result in injury and harm to the brain and contribute to our cognitive decline over time. It can accelerate that production of the beta amyloid plaque and tau tangles. And it breaks down that blood-brain barrier that allows for toxins and pathogens and molecules to enter the brain, and that increases damage to the neurons over time. Oxidation, also another contributing factor. The oxidation plays a major role in our overall brain health and the future development of neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia. There are some external sources to oxidation: pollution, smoking, and a poor diet. And poor diet is something that we can fix. Some things we can fix, some things we cannot fix. Glucose dysregulation. So glucose is our primary source of energy for our brain. It's essential for our neurons to produce energy. And the brain requires a steady supply of this to function effectively. And when glucose metabolism is disrupted due to something like insulin resistance, diabetes, poor diet, it can significantly affect our brain's health. It also contributes to oxidative stress, inflammation. It's just all connected here. All four of these really tied together, and it's like a snowball effect. So with lipid dysregulation, that's our cholesterol, triglycerides, phospholipids. It's essential for the structural integrity of our neurons and how those neurons are fired. So how high levels of our LDL triggers that inflammation, and so the rest begin with the oxidation and the glucose dysregulation. So what can we do about this? I have a question. Has anyone heard of the blue zones? There's 5 blue zones. Wendy's heard of them. So the blue zones, I'll start with what they are. The blue zones, they pockets of the world where there is a larger number of centenarians, so people living to 100 or longer. They have low rates of disease and infection, a strong sense of community. And essentially, these are just places where people are living healthier, longer lives. We have one here in the United States, that's Loma Linda, California. And the others are all over the world. There's Okinawa, Japan, Italy, Greece, and Costa Rica. And we'll learn a little bit more about each of those places. But what was the common themes going through these communities and why people were living longer? So their lifestyles involved natural movement throughout the day. Research is finding that we've done a lot of things to make life more convenient. So we have a stand mixer now. Instead of mixing our ingredients in a bowl, we use the elevator or an escalator, and we're not taking the stairs. We're not doing day-to-day natural manual labor. And so a common theme was that these communities, they were getting up many, many times in the day. They incorporated a lot of natural movement in there, and they had laborious jobs. They didn't sit behind a desk. They oftentimes would walk 5 miles or more per day. These communities also had a deep sense of purpose and meaning, and that proved to add 7 years to their life. So just by being in a strong community, maybe that's a community of faith or just a volunteer group, but having purpose and waking up every day with a group of people that support you and have a similar mission in life proved to add 7 years to life, as opposed to people who did not and were more isolated. They were very skillful about their stress management, making sure that they weren't feeling stressed. And if they were, they had very skillful techniques to help them reduce that. They avoided overeating or eating late at night. One of the communities had an 80% rule where they ate till they were only 80% full because of that brain-gut connection. Our brain doesn't know that we're full as quickly as our gut knows that we're full. So they were avoiding overeating. They primarily ate a plant-based diet, and I have a few slides from each of the countries with a pie chart showing what their diets consisted of. Enjoying a drink or two with friends, although the community in Loma Linda was primarily a Seventh-day Adventist community, and they don't drink as a collective. And it's not the alcohol, because research has shown that alcohol is harmful and can, increase our risk of developing dementia. But it was more about that dedicated social time every day that they would meet up with their friends to socialize. Like I said, a connection to a faith community. So those in Okinawa, they had a special word, and it's Molai. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it was essentially a committed group of friends that had a common purpose in life. And so that was very important to their culture and believed to be why they lived to be 100 years old, essentially. Living near family and finding a lifelong partner. contributed and those social networks to support their healthy living. So it wasn't just that individuals wanted to live healthy lives, that everyone that they were around had that same lifestyle, and it makes it easier to be successful. Italy was the first identified blue zone. There were nearly 10 times more centenarians than anywhere else in the country. And they were known for putting their family first, celebrating their elders. I know sometimes we have this negative perspective about growing older, and that contributes to our well-being as we age and how society sees us. And so their society really gave a lot of praise and respect to their elders and really celebrated them rather than viewing them as a burden or someone that they'd have to take care of. They walked 5 miles a day, they drank red wine, they laughed, and they were also culturally isolated, which led to very traditional and healthy lifestyles. And so I found that interesting that being culturally isolated helps them maintain their traditions and their healthy lifestyle. They were hunters, fishers, they harvested their food, they ate lean meat if they ate meat at all. And so here's an example of what the diet may look like. So we see that almost 50% of the diet was whole grains. Another quarter of that was dairy, and then the rest made up of vegetables, meat being 5%, legumes, a very small amount of sugar and fats. And if they drank milk, it was primarily sheep or goat's milk, and their grain was predominantly barley. And as we go through the slides here, while each of the communities may have eaten different things, there was one thing that was very similar amongst them. So I want to see if you notice that as you look through these pie charts. So the next one in Loma Linda, primarily plant-based with fruits and vegetables and legumes making up a majority of their diet, and then very small amounts of the rest. Japan, sweet potatoes made up 67% of their diet. That's a lot of sweet potatoes. The common theme here is that meat makes up 5% or less of the diet in each of these communities, and that's pretty significant. So heavy in the fruits, the vegetables, and the grains. Okay, so stress reduction. Research has shown that a prolonged elevated amounts of cortisol, so that's our stress hormone, that can increase our risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by over 50%. That increases the production of beta amyloid protein, which starts in the hippocampus. This is our memory center. This is kind of our driving force in our brain for all the things that we're able to do and remember to do and who we are. And having a heart rate of over 80 beats per minute can also increases our risk of developing dementia. And so this is over time. So what can we do to reduce our stress? One of the easy things that we can do in a moment is taking 3 deep breaths. That immediately will drop those cortisol levels. So I'd like to give it a try. If you all would sit comfortably in your seat, dropping your shoulders. I invite you to close your eyes. And let's take in 3 deep breaths together. And release. Breathing in through the nose once more. And breathing out. And one last deep breath in. And out. So using this technique, in moments when we're feeling stressed, we can leave a room or just sit silently for a minute, taking those 3 deep breaths has shown to drastically reduce those cortisol levels in our bodies in moments when we're feeling a heightened sense of stress and anxiety. As we learned that nutrition played a huge role in cleaning the brain, antioxidating properties, and played a huge role in longevity and to staying healthy. And so what were the things that they were eating? So dark leafy greens, that kale, spinach, collard greens, those leafy greens, they're rich in vitamin K, folate, beta carotene. Berries, particularly blueberries and strawberries. There was some research done out of Harvard Medical University, and for women specifically who ate 2 servings of berries per day were able to delay or push off cognitive decline by 2.5 years. And that is significant. 2.5 years, you're able to stay more cognitively healthy by simply eating 2 bowls of berries a day. That's something that's accessible that we can all do. These diets are rich in legumes, beans, nuts, walnuts. They're a powerhouse food. They contain protein, healthy fats, those omega-3 fatty acids. They help to lower our blood pressure and clean out our arteries. Type 2 diabetes has been known to shrink our hippocampus. So by managing our sugar levels and our insulin, we're able to push that off as well and keep that under control. And avoiding processed foods and meat, specifically red meat. In the blue zones, the meat that they were eating were lean meats like poultry or fish and not red meat. And so that has proven to be detrimental to our health. Some new research has come out about curry. This is research out of the University of Pittsburgh and the National Institute of Health. And they demonstrated a link between the consumption of curcumin, which is found in a yellow curry, specifically turmeric. And it was potent and anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, which reduces that buildup of the beta amyloid plaque that causes dementia. It helps to reduce high blood sugar and high cholesterol. And interestingly enough, India has the lowest rate of Alzheimer's disease globally. And they do eat a lot of turmeric-rich foods. So exercise played a huge role in the health of those living in the blue zone. So studies suggest that physical exercise plays a huge role in our cognitive health. And it increases both the number of small vessels and the supply of blood to the brain. It also raises the level of nerve growth in the area of our brain and supporting our memory. So finding ways to incorporate movement in our day is going to be really helpful. That helps to prevent that sticky stuff. That's the amyloid plaque forming. So some, again, research-based vaccines, specifically a shingles vaccine. The research is suggesting that it's delaying or could potentially delay a diagnosis. It's adding to other research that has been coming up. So being vaccinated against shingles and flu vaccine can potentially help reduce your risk of developing dementia later on. Managing hearing loss. This is another important component as we age and we're not able to hear as well as we once did, can increase our feelings of isolation, depression. We're not able to engage in conversations as we once did. And that over time affects our cognitive health. And so making sure that you're getting your hearing checked and that if you do have a deficit in your hearing, that you're getting hearing aids can really help our cognitive health. In this study, it was for people who were already at a high risk, but if you are at a high risk of developing some form of dementia, it did reduce by 48% their chances. So that's pretty significant. Keeping our brain active is another big component. There is a resource called totalhealthworks.com. This is a virtual exercise platform, I'm going to say. And they do offer a free class every Wednesday live. And this class is awesome for physical exercise as well as cognitive exercise. So this is evidence-based program, and they incorporate a lot of mental exercises in with their physical exercises. So I recommend checking out totalhealthworks.com. But incorporating frequent social activity, find something that you really love or something that you used to love and you haven't been getting into it very much. Try and rekindle something that you used to love to expand your social network. That can do wonders. Intellectual stimulation, learning a new instrument, picking up the ukulele or learning to play piano. Amazing powerhouse skill for just using different parts of your brain. It can also be as simple as I am right-handed. I brush my teeth with my right hand. So a couple times a week, I'm going to brush my teeth with my left hand. It's just encouraging your brain to use a different part, and those neural pathways that somebody told me once, use the analogy of skiing. So if you're on a ski slope and your skis are following the indented path in the snow, your brain is continuing to do these things and making a divot in the snow. But by doing things differently from time to time, you're increasing different pathways for them, and that just strengthens them over time. Reading the newspaper is almost becoming obsolete, so I should change it to news outlets, but staying up to date with current events, things that interest you, things that get you thinking, playing game puzzles, visiting museums, going to lectures such as this, things that can encourage you to learn something new, deepen a connection with something that you already knew. Essentially, challenging yourself in different ways and learning new things is going to be really beneficial. I'm sure we all know the importance of sleep. Sleep affects our brain, our heart, our lungs. It protects us against disease. And so much of our body runs on a good night's sleep. So creating new memories is important, right? That's an important thing that our brains need to be able to do. But not getting enough sleep has shown to increase our ability to make new memories or retain our memory. We are significantly impacted by lack of sleep. So developing a sleep routine, a schedule, so to speak, maybe having phones and tablets that are so prevalent in our community and our lifestyle these days. There are things that you can do. If you look at your phone before you go to bed, you can change the settings so that it's not so bright, and it automatically, when it doesn't detect light in a room, it automatically changes to a brown screen, or the light filters, how they're hitting your eye and telling your brain to stay awake. Or just leaving your phone and your tablet out of the bedroom and committing to going to sleep at a regular time, dimming the lights in your home. This is good for everyone. This is, for people living with some form of dementia, we talk about sundowning and things that can contribute to it, and having a sleep routine is just as important for them as it is for us. And if we are having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, to reach out to your doctor and try and get some assistance with that. You want to avoid afternoon naps, avoid caffeine late in the day. Again, watching TV or screens in the bedroom or having a large meal can all contribute to lack of sleep. So to help us remember all of this, Neuro, Neuro, this was developed by Doctors Dean and Aisha Shirzai. And nutrition. So the N stands for nutrition, eating a balanced plant-based diet. E is for exercise, incorporating simple movements and stretching increases life expectancy and boosts mood. U stands for unwind, and that's that stress management portion. Restore, sleep, and optimize brain health and cognition. Your brain can grow at any age. So that's a fun way to try and remember the key components to having a healthy brain. And if you're interested in receiving the slideshow, please email me. I'll put my email here in the chat. And make sure that you're signed up for our email so you don't miss any of our upcoming workshops. If you aren't already signed up, you can email Robin at adrccares.org. And also follow us on social media. We are active on Facebook and Instagram, and we're building up our YouTube as well. Well, thank you all so much for coming today. And I hope you have a wonderful new year. And I look forward to seeing you at our next workshop.